Hi guys, so we all know that Boris Johnson broke the lockdown rules. We all know that he had parties at number 10, both indoors and outside. He lied about it to the media. He lied about it to Parliament. He dodged the question whether parties had took place there and then said that the rules were followed. And he eventually apologised for something. So now that the police have issued fixed penalty notices, what should happen to Boris Johnson? Should he resign? Well, disgraced former Health Secretary Matt Hancock doesn't believe so, and he doesn't for probably one of the stupidest reasons ever.
The Prime Minister's apologised, but it is really important, when you're, as an MP, as a representative of my constituents, once the Prime Minister has apologised, the idea that that he should have to resign following something like this, that question has to take into account everything that's going on. Because this isn't the only subject. It is an important subject. Of course it is. And we've just been talking about another important subject. And then there's some huge subjects facing the country, like the war. And then there's the economic situation as well.
So, the huge subject like the war. So Boris Johnson, it's necessary for Boris Johnson to remain in office because there's a war going on in Ukraine. So Boris Johnson can't resign because there's a war going. Like, you do understand that President Zelensky is the one who's leading the charge in Ukraine, not Boris Johnson. Okay, if Boris Johnson was replaced tomorrow with somebody else, it would make zero. It would have zero impact on the situation in Ukraine. Now, he also talked about the economic issues. Which ones is he talking about here?
Get that, but that will really upset people watching, because yes, of course there are other things going on, but to those people we saw at that memorial in central London today, at the memorial wall opposite where you're standing now, you can see it from the House of Parliament. To those people, it really does matter. And, in their eyes, if the Prime Minister broke the law and lied, he should face consequences. An apology doesn't cut it. You can't just confuse it with the war in Ukraine, the Brexit issue. You can't confuse it with all of that.
I'm not confusing anything. I'm being really clear.
It's been very clear, yes. Boris Johnson doesn't have to resign because there's a war in another country that does not necessarily need Boris Johnson in charge, and the Brexit issue, the consequences of Brexit. That would actually be a good reason for Boris Johnson to resign. He broke the law. That's one reason he should resign. But the impact of Brexit, which he said would be a good idea, well, it's turned out to be a terrible idea. He should resign for that as well. So suggesting that Boris Johnson needs to remain in power because of the economy is a ridiculous idea. But once again, Matt Hancock, who resigned in disgrace, he should be actually telling Boris Johnson, you should resign as well. You've broken the law. You've undermined the government's ability to deal with the pandemic. Many people lost their lives because of Boris Johnson's behaviour. Because many people looked at the way he was acting and said, well, if he's breaking the rules, why should I follow them? If he's writing the rules and breaking them, why should I make sacrifices? And people made massive sacrifices. People didn't go to funerals. People didn't visit loved ones. People were not unfortunately, many elderly people were alone when they died. They couldn't have their friends and family near them. While Boris Johnson was, knocking back bottles of wine with friends, with family, with associates, with colleagues in number 10. Boris Johnson should resign. He broke the rules, he broke the law, he should resign. And it doesn't matter if there's a war going on, it doesn't matter if Brexit is destroying the economy, he has to go. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.